All right. Well, welcome everyone. The Florida Interest Network Town Hall for October 2019. How in the world did we get this late in the year? This fast? I have no idea, but I'm so excited for today's town hall. We have a very special guest that I have known since I said the 200s, but she reminded it's actually the 2000s. Jennifer Sneeden, who I knew when she had a different name. We're not going to find out if it was a different married or maiden name, but it was a different, it's so long, I've noticed since she had a different name. And you were just saying that you were starting your master's as I was finishing my PhD at Nova, but we weren't even academically connected. It was all through the connection of MFTs, the
Yes.
connection of that. And so that's just a big plug for how networking your fellow MFTs is so important. And that's why you belong to things like the Florida Interest Network. And then you get to see people like Jennifer for free, because if you see her otherwise, it's not going to be free and worth every penny. But this is your little hors d'oeuvre of Miss Jennifer. And I don't remember under what auspices you did this, but if I recall, when I first met you, you talked about how you did consulting to like big corporations and would go in and do this stuff that we decided was really qualitative research. So remind us again, what was that all about, and then it got you into what you're doing now.
Yeah, so thank you, Annalena. It is such a pleasure to be here. You know, I am down in my core an MFT, and I love the work that you are doing in keeping this identity for all of us in Florida. So thank you for the work that you're doing, and thank you very much for having me here today. I actually came into marriage and family therapy from consulting. I was working in London at the time. I lived there for a few years. And I was hearing about this really cool work in systemic consulting and how you can take this multi-billion-dollar organization and change one thing here and have ripple effects throughout the organization. And I was so intrigued by this. And there was this woman who was really on the cutting edge of this, named Insoo Kim Berg. And I said, I've got to know more about her. And so she was my entree in, and I was finishing up my contract in London. I knew I didn't want to continue to travel the world anymore, as much as I loved that. And I said, oh my gosh, wait, this is therapy? Okay, I think I could do this. And so I was so enamored of this whole systemic way of thinking that it brought me into the therapy world. And then of course, I just can't say enough about my education at Nova. And I came out, I did private practice for a long time. And then I kind of gravitated back into the coaching and consulting side of things. Because what I love, love, love is helping therapists build their businesses. And so I just love the work that I do and how everything has come together so perfectly.
Isn't that interesting how you've made this full circle, really, how very systemic
Yeah.
of you to start here, go someplace else, and then bring it all back together.
Yeah. Well, there's a quote, something about returning to the same place as a different person. I
Yes.
feel like that's been my journey.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've been in private practice, you've done the straight up, therapy thing. Did you specialize in any particular clientele when you did that?
Yeah, so I started out with doing hypnotherapy. Of course, got some amazing training from Douglas Flemons and just absolutely fell in love with that and realized from a business perspective that I wanted another area of specialty. So I was doing a lot of hypnotherapy. I brought in marriage counseling and created Boca Marriage Counseling, where I had a few people working for me. And really then that became a big part of what I was doing. And then in 2014, I launched the business that I have right now, Thriving Therapy Practice, in 2009. So between 2009,
Let's say that slower. Thriving Therapy
Thriving Therapy Practice,
Practice. Yes.
the coaching and consulting side of things, I launched that in 2009. So from 2009 to 2014, I was trying to kind of ride two ponies. And in 2014, I realized that I couldn't have the business I really dreamed of and the practice I really dreamed of. That one of it was either or kind of thing. So I closed the practice in 2014 and have been running Thriving Therapy Practice exclusively since then.
So this is, so I'm hearing kind of an isomorphic thing here where you were doing consulting, you heard about systems that got you into therapy. So you were doing kind of hypnosis and couples, then you build a practice, right? So it wasn't, you weren't a sole practitioner, you built a practice with multiple people, which, you know, for some of us takes a lot of guts. Even just the thought of that is overwhelming, right? And then you said, oh, look at this cool consulting I could do. All these people are looking to build a wonderful practice like I have. And then you realized to do both was too big. And so you had to let one go, but this was the way that you came back. So it's sort of like, you know, there's the therapist that becomes the supervisor that becomes the supervisor of supervisors. That's kind of your path from therapist to therapist owner to consultant to exclusively consulting.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I was doing the consulting work before my pre-therapist life, I loved the work. I got to travel all over the world, but I never felt as though my work really made a difference.
Huh.
So one of my big clients for a while was Citibank. At the time, Citibank, now Citigroup or Citi or whatever they're called. And I never felt like me as a person was going to change the course of Citibank's future, right? Like I could help solve problems, but it was never going to steer the ship. And now I feel like I have an opportunity to help steer the ship for so many people. And I love it. I love that, you know, it's just whatever we want to create with my clients. So I find it so energizing and so rewarding to do that work. But if I hadn't had all of that experience as a therapist, certainly if I hadn't had that systemic training, there's no way I could do this work that I do.
So you were doing this consulting, but the therapy gave you a whole different set of skills that now makes your consulting even more effective.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's hard for me to even, like, you can't unsee it, you know, like once you've gotten that.
How could I have thought any other way? Yeah.
Right. Like I just can't unsee it. And so I just approach everything. I just see everything in my life through that systemic lens. And it affects, it affects my relationship with my own kids, with friends. Like it just is how I understand the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you really drank the Kool-Aid. All right.
Oh my God. I so drank the Kool-Aid. Yes, I did.
That's fantastic. Well, in our turning on the camera warm up, we kicked around the idea of looking at this consulting thing kind of from three directions, three bubbles, as it were. And in no particular order, we talked about how therapists might need a consultant, right? How therapists might be consultants. What about consulting might they add to their practice, and then how therapists become consultants. So kind of along that same path that you were talking about. And I know some of the people who will view this already are in practice and will be looking for ways to expand. There are other people, maybe like students, who can't even picture what a practice would look like and what that would entail and all that. And we're certainly not laying at your feet to talk about that, except from that consulting lens. So, you know, pick up the trail wherever it makes sense to you, and we'll just run with it.
Okay, so where do we start? First of all, if you are thinking of private practice, go for it. It is the most rewarding career that you can create for yourself. And I know that many people come into family therapy called to work at agencies, and I so honor that because that work is so needed and it's so important. And then there are others that come in just called to be in private practice, and that it can be a scary thing, but go for it because it's so rewarding, and it's just an amazing thing to start from nothing and build whatever it is that you want, and the freedom of being in business for yourself. So if you're even like tempted by the idea of private practice, absolutely go for it. What should we talk about? Let's talk about doing consulting work, because this is something I get asked a lot about. Maybe you really see yourself as being a consultant, like not necessarily sitting in an office face to face with a client, but you want to be the one working with Citibank or Reuters or Burger King or whoever that client is, or maybe even on a smaller scale doing consulting work. Let me tell you that the skills you have as a family therapist are right spot on for the skills that you need as a consultant. When I work, and I still do a little bit of consulting work, I keep my toe in the water just because I have a lot of fun with it. I would say that 90% of my work with organizations is asking questions, listening, and reframing. And so, like, hello, who better to do that than a therapist? And who better to work with an organization that has 10 people or 10,000 people than a family therapist that's so familiar with all those dynamics going in? So don't feel as though, like, I think we often think, I'm a therapist, I'm not an MBA, or I'm not whatever I think I'm supposed to have. But organizations need what we have to offer because business people don't have the communication skills that we have. And if we can bring our communication skills into organizations, it's going to make a tremendous difference for them right now.
So I can remember in the past when we've talked about this, that one of the things that you shared with me is that you tend to think of these business peoples, that maybe the R&D department or the sales department or the heads of all of those departments, as a family. They interact with each other like their families, and so you kind of suss out what they look like from a Bowen perspective or a structural perspective. Is that, am I close at all to what you think you do?
Yeah, I wouldn't, I would say I sort of maybe remember what a Bowen perspective is. So I would say that I probably lost some of the model specific stuff, but I definitely see like people in relationship to each other, and that you don't have to address the problem to fix the problem. You can address something over here that isn't so tightly knotted up, and then that's going to have changes throughout the organization. There was a company that I worked with who I won't name, that was not having, they had a call center, you know, like one of those big banks of people taking calls, and their satisfaction ratings were not very high. And so they were doing training, and they were hiring new management, and they were looking at remote, like, look, they had tried everything to boost their customer service scores, and nothing was working. And so they hired me as, you know, like, help fix our customer service kind of a thing. So in all of this discovery, so just like you, when you meet a client, you're not going to offer them solutions the first couple sessions, right? You're going to get to know them and understand the system. So as I was kind of floating around talking with people on the floor, they got bonused based on their call completion rate. So they were paid on how many calls they could answer, but they were being asked to spend more time with clients and increase their customer satisfaction. So immediately it came to me that you can't pay on this and ask this, right? So that, to me, when you look at it from a systemic perspective, it just all made sense that there was not cohesion between what was being asked by different people Almost like in a family system where you know you've got a split in the parenting. When this person is saying I'm going to pay you based on this, and this person is saying but I want you to do this, you don't know where you're going. And so that was one that very much jumped out at me, as when you look at it systemically, the problem becomes very clear and therefore very easy to fix.
Now, I got to think that those employees would tell their bosses, I can't do this because I want to be able to make the money. But for some reason, I'm going to bet you as a consultant coming in, looking at it, you're the outside expert, that somehow
Right.
the higher ups heard you differently, just like kids say to their parents, you know, do this or stop doing that, but the parents won't hear it until the therapist says it.
It's so true. It is absolutely so true. And I think very little of what I have to offer, I'm curious if you agree with this or not. Very little of what I have to offer is earth shattering. It's just in how I coach, how I couch it, who I am in terms of the fact that they're paying me for this and the perception of it. But I'm not saying things most of the time that people don't already know.
Yes, yes. But systems is not universally understood. People
That's true.
don't
That's very true.
look at things from a systemic perspective a lot of the time. So I think that is something different with that we bring, that idea of circular causality and command and report and all those systems concepts that, you know, that you might remember from your earliest days in the master's programs, right? And I'm not just talking about you, Jennifer. I'm talking about everybody who's listening.
Right.
So unless you're a fairly new student, these are concepts that you'd have to knock the cobwebs off of. But yeah, so when I think of where some of the people listening to this might look to do consulting, things that pop up to me are like family businesses, or church boards that are struggling with each other, with the pastor, or small businesses of some kind. Am I warm? Am I going in the right direction?
So I would say, and this is my advice, whether you want to go in the consulting route or you want to go to the private practice route, what is it that really speaks to you? What
Mm,
is it that you are called to do? One of the huge you were talking about a Gen Xer that was before, or a millennial before, right? So
yeah.
one of the big things that's happening with corporations right now is this idea of employee engagement.
Mm,
You've got to get your employees really invested in the work, because the emerging workforce isn't doing it for job security. They're not doing it for the gold watch. And so what so many organizations have, I'm actually doing a project similar to this right now. You've got the management, the leadership, which let's call them the 50 somethings, right? And then you've got the workforce, which is the 20 and 30 something. And there's this huge divide. And so they can't keep employees. Well, who better to help bridge that communication gap than a family therapist, right? So in consulting terms, this is called employee engagement. How do we build a culture that our employees really want to be part of, and getting the leadership to listen to the employees and getting the employees to feel a sense of commitment to the corporation. So that's something that every business is interested in. So I just moved into a new office, and we're a small team. It's a handful of us, but I very much spoke with my team about what's the workflow going to be, and where do you want your desk to sit? Do you want to be near a window, or do you want to be near the water, right? Like getting people's input so that their work environment is conducive to where they're going to thrive. And that to me is work that a therapist is so ideally suited to do.
okay, great. So this may be beyond our topic today, but I'm sure there are articles or places one can go that if you wanted to begin to do this sort of business consulting kind of work, and that this is what we're talking about, our business corporate consulting, that in order to do that, you're going to have a little street cred, I'm going to guess.
Really
Um,
language, for sure.
So that might be something that if someone wants to get in on that, would find someone else who's doing it, and maybe apprentice with them or work with them in some way. Are there any other ways that you would suggest that people kind of look into if they want to get into this?
Right, that's a great question. So the biggest thing is you've got to know the language. And if you go into an organization, whether it is the pastor or the family business or the 1,200 employee organization, and you're speaking the language of a therapist, you're going to come across as very soft, right? They're not going to take you seriously. So you have to, it's like speaking another language. There's a woman on my team that helps me with the consulting work that I do, and when we review it, I'm always like, harder language, harder language, harder language, because there is just a different language that organizations speak. So I actually would highly recommend, there's an organization called the Society of Human Resources Management, I think, shrm.org. And they're a great resource for learning about what topics are of interest to businesses right now. Where are they investing? Where do they need help? And if you can find a problem that the business needs solved, you're good. You are completely good to go.
Gotcha. So it's the old find a need and fill it kind of
Yeah,
idea.
and whether you're in private practice, whether you're doing big company consulting, small company consulting, that's exactly what it boils down to. Find a need, fill it, and the rest of it will fall into place.
And the other thing I heard is, just like we talk about speaking the client's language, is we have to speak the business's language.
Yep,
right? So you have to know what R&D stands for, and you need to know kind of what business structures look like and how they call stuff.
Right.
Like employee engagement. You have to know that kind of language. We would call that joining, right?
Yeah.
So being able to do that translation is a big part of it.
How about this one? This is what businesses call joining. You ready? I love this.
Okay.
They call it enculturation.
Oh.
Isn't that good? Enculturation.
Enculturation. Got it. I feel like I'm in Star Trek and the Borg, and there's no escaping assimilation. My goodness.
Right.
Yeah.
Enculturation.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So for those of us who have the skills and are looking for a kind of a different area to do it in, consulting, or some people might call that coaching, if you were doing it with, say, the owner of the business, that kind of stuff, would that be more how coaching is different from consulting?
I think so. I don't really know how coaching and consulting differ.
Okay.
My expectation is, when I do a consulting project, I'm expecting to give you something. So we just created a series of videos for a company that is doing employee engagement. So I delivered a set of videos for their employees. I'm also doing some coaching with one of their senior vice presidents, where all I do is get on the phone with him for a couple hours a month. So I don't know if that's the official distinction between the two, but when I talk about coaching, I don't expect to give you anything.
Gotcha. It's more, that looks a lot more like therapy, except it's very concrete, very, very task oriented.
For coaching?
Yeah.
No,
No, not even. Yeah.
it's all pure
Therapy. How about that? Yeah. Interesting. Because I've heard some people who are taking coaching training, and they were trying to distinguish for me. So actually it could be lots of different things, like happens so often. So it's hard to nail that down. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. But so when you're consulting, you're looking to do some deliverables. But then you might do something that looks a little like coaching or therapy with particular members of the team that might need more assistance in getting it or understanding things or whatever. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. So I think this might be a great time for us to talk about then how might therapists need a consultant? Why in the world would we reach out to someone
In the
to give
world.
us consulting?
Okay, so I I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story, and maybe this will make the point. Okay. So I had come from doing this consulting work, working with major organizations, leading multi-million dollar projects. I take a sabbatical, I go get my master's, I come out, I open my private practice. Annalyn, this is me. Okay. I got a gorgeous leather couch. I bought like agonized over the hypnosis chair because I was doing hypnosis, had to have the perfect chair or I couldn't operate, and never for a moment considered that I had to be marketing. Like it just didn't even enter
Right.
in.
If you build it, they will come.
Yeah, exactly. Like here I was, I got my business cards. Like, what's wrong? Why is nobody calling me? And I realized that I was not alone in that. And now this is 2004. And I think we fast forward to 2019. I think people coming into the field today know they have to market, but they don't know how, right? Like Andrea was on the call. She's about to finish her master's. If she wanted to go into private practice, has anybody taught her? What do you say on your website? How do you post on Facebook in order to get calls, right? So I think there's this, you bring this wealth of clinical skills, you bring this passion for serving your clients, and you maybe realize you've got to do some marketing, but you certainly don't know the extent of it, and you certainly don't know how to do it, like how to get the people calling you. And so to me, the work that I do for therapists, which is what I'm so deeply passionate about, is that side of it. It's like this huge gap in, I don't even want to say it's a gap in their education, but it's a skill set they have not yet developed by the time they've opened their private practice.
I can imagine that at least for people of my generation, which we will not name, um, tend to think of marketing as icky somehow.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
That if
It's
I'm good enough, people will somehow find me, right? But of
yeah.
course, this was in the age of no internet, right? No internet, no smartphones, no Facebook, no tweet, and a host of other things that I don't even know what the hell they are. And I hear about things like Reddit and
TikTok.
Instagram and oh, okay, that's a new one, TikTok, right? And there's a new one every damn day.
Yes, there
So
is. There's a new one every damn day.
every day, and but there's still sort of an icky. Of course, that could be my Midwest upbringing as well, as there's something icky about blowing your own horn.
Well, okay, so this is exactly it, Annalyn. Like you have hit the nail on the head. This is why people need a consultant when they open a practice. If your marketing is icky, you're doing it wrong, right? And really, because marketing is not about tooting your own horn, but that's what we think we're supposed to be doing. And when we think we're supposed to be tooting our own horn, of course it feels icky. I mean, my God, why wouldn't it feel icky? So like, I remember when you said I drank the Kool-Aid. So the Kool-Aid I sell my clients is your marketing should serve. Your marketing should provide tremendous value to your clients. And once you get that, like once you really understand you're serving people just through your marketing, it's not icky anymore, and the rest of it is easy.
Okay.
I had a client, her name is Mary Ellen Connett, and you might appreciate this story. So Mary Ellen is, she's been in practice 36 years, I think. And she absolutely came from the era where marketing was icky and didn't market. And Mary Ellen had been considering hiring me for a while and didn't, because she's got all the stuff about marketing. And she one day called and said, okay, I'm ready to get started. She was cleaning out some old boxes in her garage, and she had found like her client records, her business receipts from 1986. In 1986, she was charging $175 an hour for therapy. In 2016, she was charging $65 an hour. And she was like, oh my gosh, it's 30 years later and I'm making a third of what I was making way back then. And that was her moment to say, no, when I started, marketing wasn't part of the game. It wasn't what you had to do to be in private practice. And she had kind of missed the boat and was saying, okay, I'm ready to do this. And that's the piece. I think that people coming into the field now, they come prepared to market. People that came in the field, I really would say prior to 2000, there is very much a stigma that they have to overcome, that marketing, it's not icky, it's not self-promotional, it is a way to get your services out in the world.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. So, so there's certainly one of the things that you and your team specialize in is consulting to therapists who are building private practice. I know that that's one of the things you do. And so if people want to find you, it's I think they go to, what is it, Thriving Therapy Practice?
Yep, thrivingtherapypractice.com.
.com.
And as I said about marketing, you will find so many free resources out there. We've got podcasts where this is a really good place to start, where we interview people that have successful practices and they share their secrets, like how they built it, how they got successful. And it's really inspirational to hear other people's stories. So you'll find videos, podcasts, all sorts of great resources on our website.
And you're not the only one. There's Startup Nation that Kate and Katie are doing. Kate and Katie travel to conferences where all these people who do this kind of work all meet together. It seems to be a very collegial group that they have each other on each other's podcasts and stuff like that. So I don't get the sense of the competition that one typically would expect from something that feels more corporate. So so you're saying there's lots of resources. Go look at them. You know, if you're not sure how to do a website or what to do with Twitter or any of that kind of stuff out there. And then when you find like it's that you want to go the next step, then contracting with a consultant can take you that next step, can give you what you don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I really believe that if you're just starting out, there's so much free stuff that it is the time to try it on your own. You know, let me see what I can do. Let me take advantage of all the free resources out there. And then you reach a point where it's like, okay, I'm ready to go here, and I know I need some help getting there.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, because there's all kinds of website building things that you can do on your own, and why not? Why not take it as far as you can on your own? And then whatever dollars you do spend on consulting is going to be really, you know, you're not doing the basics. You're going to be taking it the next level. So that makes a lot of sense.
And you're going to learn what you're really good at. You're going to learn what's worth spending money on and what you can do yourself. Because marketing, as a business owner, you need to own the marketing, because that's the flow of cash and the flow of clients into your business. So it's something that you need to keep the pulse on, no matter how big your business gets.
Right. Yeah. Which reminds me, next month, November, I'm going to say the 14th, that's only 3 weeks away. A brand new minted PhD out of Nova, Sarah Walker, is going to do 101 how to create your own YouTube channel. So that's right in the same realm here, right? Is YouTube channels are a way to be a service, as you said, be a service to your clients, to the public, and yet it's also a doorway for them to find you when you're in your practice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So I love this. And let me just give a plug for Sarah, who I don't even know. YouTube is a fantastic way to market your practice for all of the reasons that you just mentioned. And if anybody is thinking of where do I start, tune in next month for that one, because YouTube is a huge, huge and way underutilized marketing resource.
Okay, way underutilized. Okay, that's good to know. Good to know. Okay, great. Alrighty, so we've talked about therapists getting consulting. So as therapists were to reach out to a consultant, assuming they've done their homework and they've tried some of this stuff on their own, and they find out what's not working for them, what they aren't able to do, what they are able to do, or they just don't even know what the list is of things to do.
Mhm. Yep.
So what is a and so one way to figure out if a consulting company or person fits for you is to go see their free stuff, go look at their podcasts, get ideas from
Yep.
just their presence. You know, how do they market? I'm going to guess you would also recommend that people go look up other therapists' websites and see what they like, see what they, you know, what fits for them, what looks icky to them, you know, all those kinds of things. Are there any other kind of like top 2 rules or top 2 tasks that you would recommend someone take a swing at, you know, to get themselves ready to make the most of a consultant?
Social media.
Social
So,
media.
okay, so I will circle back to social media, but I just want to be really clear about this, since we made the distinction before between coaching and consulting. I never recommend that you hire a consultant who is going to like do the stuff for you. I more recommend that you hire a coach that's going to guide you as to how to do it for your business. Because when you've developed the skills of how to market, and you know that you can get a steady flow of calls week after week, you have that for the rest of your life. So I really, and you know, you've talked about other practice building people. To the best of my knowledge, really everybody in this field supports that mindset. Let's empower the therapist with the tools and the skills that they need so they can go on about their lives. Just what we do as therapists, right? We don't want to see the person for the next 30 years. We want to give them the tools that they need so that their family can function without us. It's the same kind of mindset here.
So
And
you don't want to pay somebody $400 to put a website together for you that you don't know how to change, edit, add to. You want to know how it works so
that's
that you own it at every level. Is that what you're saying?
yes, and yes, absolutely. And the same with your social media, and the same with all of the marketing elements, as well as like the high level strategic part of the marketing. So that you, at the end of the day, this is your business. You are responsible for getting the phone calls, and you need to know that you know how to do that. And knowing how to
Mm,
do that is like crazy empowering. So I
hmm.
never recommend that you outsource your marketing. I recommend that you invest in developing the skills that you need for practice building.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm just where my head just went now is, you know, we have that new telemental health law
Mhm.
in Florida. Actually, it's a telehealth law, and that it actually is better for people outside of Florida than in Florida, but it does do the benefit of defining what that is for us. And so if anybody wants to do a private practice that is predominantly virtual, like the environment that we're in right this red hot second, you have to have social media, because that's how they'll find you. They're not going to go to your office physically and then decide to see you virtually. So yeah, I can see where this is all going. And yes, the young folks that already have 14 social media outlets that they're a part of, God love you. Now you just have to learn how to best use them.
Yes, and those people with the 14 social media accounts, they might not be our clients today, but they will very soon. And if
Mm,
we can prepare ourselves for when, because we're even seeing now, right, as we're getting the Gen Z into, as we're getting them out of college, they're becoming consumers of therapy, and we've got to meet them. We've got to connect in with them in a way that they're expecting if you really want to be able to work with that audience.
I'm just flashing on, recently I went looking for an electrician, and I started looking up, just Broward electricians,
Yeah.
and I'm recognizing what came to mind is, because of this conversation, is the electricians that didn't have a website, I just passed them by.
And gone. Yeah.
I didn't even bother calling if they didn't have a website. So yeah.
Yes, and so that is true now more and more so with social. Right now, around 69% of consumers will check out social, whatever your social footprint is, before they call. So the flow, I guess, that we're seeing is you look somebody up on Google, you go to their website, you go from their website to their social profiles, and then when you're ready to make the phone call, you come back to their website. So there's really this flow through Google, website, social, website, phone call. And we need, as business owners, we need to make sure that we're there every step of that flow, because if you don't have a website, they're not going to call you. Or if you don't have a social presence, they're not going to call you. Or if you're hard to call, they're not going to call you, right? So it's up to us to make it so easy to move them through that process.
Mhm. So, so you were saying that that for a therapist who wants to build their practice, who wants to get from the ickiness of marketing to the actually serving the clients that also then helps clients find them, right? You were saying that they should choose someone who will teach them, essentially walk them through doing it for themselves, so that they can, when the consulting or the coach relationship ends, they are able to maintain it. They're able to go forward with it. Okay, so that's, you suggested coach for that. So consultant then would not be so much for therapists, is what you're saying.
I'm not sure. So I'm thinking of who I know, and I don't know of any consultants for therapists.
Mm,
I only know of coaches. But
gotcha.
but as we said early in the conversation, those terms are a little bit, amorphous.
Fuzzy. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but really look for somebody that's going to help equip you, because you're going to be doing this for the next 40 years, right? And get the skills now. It's a great investment. I wanted to do hypnotherapy. I invested in the best course I could find. I took 6 long days out of my life, but it was so worth it, because even now I'll just like randomly incorporate those techniques and things that I'm doing.
Great, great. Okay, awesome, awesome. Well, it's 42 after the hour, so I'm gonna invite the couple of people that are here. Carrie, you are often an attendee here. So and there's Andrea, yay, back. So Carrie or Andrea, do you have any questions for Jennifer that's popped up as we were yakking here?
Well, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. I definitely wanted to say there were so many wonderful things that you said.
Yeah.
You probably can't see my little chat, but I was like adding a whole bunch of things, and just
Thank you.
it's just awesome. Like, because there were little things that you said, like when Dr. School was talking about, not tooting your own horn, and you said it is not about tooting your own horn, but that your marketing should serve. And I thought that was awesome, because I never thought about it that way. And I
So
mean, no, go right ahead.
can I play off that a little bit?
Yeah, of course.
So you guys, maybe you don't know this yet, but there's like a huge Dr. Ellen Schooley fan club, right? Like everybody loves Dr. Schooley. Have you ever heard her say, oh my gosh, I'm such a great professor. I'm such a fantastic supervisor. You've got to come and take my what are you doing? The laws and ethics?
Laws and rules, yeah.
Laws and rules because I'm the best instructor you're ever going to have. No, I mean, my God, she would never say that. And that's exactly the same with marketing, right? You've got to be so passionate and so good about what you do, just like Dr. Schooley is, that you then people are attracted to you rather than you promoting yourself.
See, you're already doing it.
Yeah, I clearly I should raise my prices.
Clearly you should.
But I thought that was definitely great, because when we go into the profession to do the same thing, to serve, and I just was like, I just never thought about it that way, and not just in saying it, but like when you go to do it. And I thank you for saying that. Like, don't just pay someone to do it all for you, but to learn. And that's why we do our internships. Or you're really picky like I am. I went and actually found a second site because I was not getting what I wanted. She can sign off on anything, but it didn't fill me the way that you described. So, I mean, yes, this is about consultation and private practice, but it's so much more than that. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a note on that marketing of being of service, we get, like any website, we get thousands of visitors that will never become clients. And if you can think about your website, your private practice website as, I want to do, maybe all I do is offer hope. Maybe all I do is reassure somebody that they're going to be okay, and they never become my client. You've done really important work. And marketing has the ability, like when, is it Carrie Walker? Did I remember that?
Sarah, Sarah Walker.
Sarah Walker. You're going to get hundreds of people that watch a video. They're touched. They got exactly what they need, and you've made a difference in their lives, and they never become a client. So thank you, Andrea, for that, because it truly is my passion to help people connect in with the service.
Okay, great. I was just thinking that as you were saying that people who work for agencies, right, who may not think any of this applies to them, I was just thinking from the service point of view, it might be exactly what they should be doing. I mean, I think a lot of the agencies down here in South Florida that do a lot of work with adolescents and their families, and just think if you had a website that talked about teen challenges with their parents or parents challenges with their teens, and you offered things that you found that you reshared and stuff like that. You don't even have to produce this material. You can just go find it. Inevitably the teen is going to look you up, right? They're going to look you up, right? Even if you're not in private practice. And so again, this is an opportunity to provide additional service in the venue that they will go look for it.
That's right.
And then if someday you decide, you know what, I think I will flip to private practice, you'll have all of this stuff in place.
Great point. That's a really good point.
Okay, so do it for the service, and then later it'll be there for you if and when you decide to go private practice. So
I love it.
Great. Hey, Carrie, do you have a question?
Hey,
Carrie.
hi. I was a couple things. I've listened to your podcast before, Jennifer, and it's so helpful, and it's inspiring me to get moving again with my plan to leave the agency that it's a tough decision, because I actually dearly love the agency I work for. Although I'm grossly underpaid, but I really love it.
And let me just guess, Carrie, and grossly overworked.
Yes, you got it. So I went the route though of I did hire someone to make my website, and here was my thinking on that. And I appreciate what you have to say too. And when I talked with this guy, I talked at length. I used to work in substance abuse, and the treatment center of the Palm Beaches, to be exact, and they've gone under. That whole company is gone now. But I'm still in contact with many of the people I used to work with. So this guy was one of their marketers, and maintain their website. So he and I had a very good talk about, he's just going to help me. So I'm like, I want to go to the experts and get that put out there quickly. But he told me all content will belong to you. You'll be able to adjust it as needed.
Yep.
So it kind of gave me a sense of relief. Like, I just got stuck right there. You know, I got stuck in my stuckness of, how do I do this? What do I look at? Looking at too many things, you know, how you can just get stuck in too much information and you sit and spin. So I let him do it but with the understanding of, I will be in charge of all content after he's done with it. So a little chunk of money going out there, but I also, you know, it's kind of like one of those things, give to get, in a way that he knew me as a therapist. I wasn't his therapist. Please don't anybody call the state. We're crossing lines here.
That was the last one.
So he was the marketer for the agency. We remember.
Yes. Yeah, but he had heard of my reputation in working there. So, you know, it's kind of a give to get. So I wanted to help him out. He's, you know, he continues to work in the treatment world. So he can become a referral source for me.
Yeah.
But I remember if it was you or, oh shoot, the two blonde ones.
Kate and Katie started.
Kate and Katie.
Yeah.
I was like Kim and Kate and Katie. But I think you all also talk about not having a scarcity mindset, which I heard that, and it shocked me, because I'm like, that's exactly where I was stuck, was, oh, but there's so many people with private practices, and how am I going to make it? But when you look, I'm in Palm Beach County, when you look at, there's 200 and something million people, I can't remember the exact count, in Palm Beach County alone. Not all of them need therapy. Many of them will want therapy and will be sent to therapy. It's like, my goodness, when you compare, now there's not enough people to cover who might need therapy. So I think that was a big kind of like aha moment. It just like clicked and released some stuff in my brain for that. I appreciate what you're saying about YouTube. My concern was, but isn't everybody doing that, doing YouTube videos? But from what you're saying, not really.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You've given me so much, Carrie. So do you mind if I like go 1, 2, 3 in order?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So website. Yes. I want to be crystal clear on this. I do not want anybody to go out and build their website. I want you to do exactly what Carrie did, which is own the content, own the website, but get a website designer who knows what they're doing.
Yes.
It's not, I do not want you to build your business yourself. I mean, I do want you to build your business yourself, but I don't want you to feel like you have to take everything on yourself, because that is another type of scarcity mindset, right? But what you've done is you've said, this guy knows his stuff. I'm going to hire him. And then you're going to have a website. And as you go, you'll learn, okay, this is what we need to have. And this is the flow that people go through the website. And this is what works and what doesn't. But you're not a website designer. Why in the world?
Yeah.
But somebody who's going to teach you how to go in and edit and do all that kind of stuff. Not somebody who's going to say, and anytime you want to change things, it's going to be another $50.
100, yeah.
No, so I actually think it's the second one.
Oh.
But what you can't do is hire somebody that can, how can I say this? The mechanics of the website, I don't think any therapist should touch.
No,
Okay.
right.
The content of the website, the branding of the website, the flow there, you know, we talk about the flow through the website, and we want people to start here and end up here, right? There's a logical progression that we want them to flow through your website. All of that stuff, you've got to be in charge of. Logging into the back end of a blog post to upload an image, no. Sweet Jesus, no.
No.
I love the way you did that. And the other thing I wanted to touch on was this idea of the scarcity mindset. I absolutely believe that there is more than enough space for everybody to play.
Mhm.
And I actually take that one step further to say there are clients out there that need you. I
Mhm.
would not be able to serve them in the same way. Anna Lynn would not be able to serve them in the same way. They need whatever special combination of gifts that you have. And so for you to not make yourself available to them, you're doing them a tremendous disservice. That it's about, there's important work that you need to do in the world that nobody else can do.
I agree. I tell my supervisees this all the time. You get the clients you need, and they get you because they need you.
And
Liam Neeson terms, your particular set of skills.
yep, it's the same thing in private practice.
Yeah.
Yep. And then one last tidbit on YouTube. It is so underutilized by therapists, you don't even know.
Really? Okay.
Oh my gosh. I'm not going to go into all the mechanics behind here right now, but if I were starting a practice from scratch, a YouTube channel and a Facebook page, and I'd be done. That's where, so
Okay.
absolutely, I love that you're willing to do that.
Okay, cool. All right. One other thing I wanted to add in is when in marketing yourself is, I heard, I think it's the guy that's helping to build the website, said make sure that in your content, in your website, and probably in the YouTube videos, that you're using words that touches people's pain, because people will Google search, what can I do about my anxiety? Or when will my depression end? Or will depression kill me? When they're saying things like that, he said, you want that peppered in, not depression is going to kill you, but you know what I mean? It's peppered in all over so that you keep getting some of these hits, or whatever your niche is. That
Yeah,
when people,
exactly.
I hate my stepdad. Boom, here's Carrie's website because she does step parenting work. So, yeah.
Absolutely. The marketing term for that is search engine optimization. Basically,
Yes.
you are spot on. You want your website to be the first solution people are offered when they're trying to solve whatever problem it is that they're trying to solve.
Yes.
So it's important, again, to do some homework about what are you good at, what kind of clients you are successful with, that, as you say, you can talk about with passion, that you can talk about with confidence, right? Maybe you aspire to work with a certain population, but you don't really know anything about them. Well, you might want to go learn a little bit first,
Right.
so that you can talk about them with authority, with confidence, with passion.
Yes, and then we also, because we're business people, we also have to tack on, is this a market that you can sustain your business on?
Mhm.
So I have a client who is deeply, passionately called to work with Christian LGBTQIA, I think I'm missing a letter, teenagers. And I love that. Like, this is her life's calling. But is that going to sustain a practice that pays the bills?
Mhm.
Not. So how do we look at what it is that we're deeply called to do, and a way to serve in such a way that we can build a business out of it? So there is some, like, you've got to know that whatever it is you're called to do, that it's marketable and sustainable in addition to something that you're passionate about.
And I think, again, in bringing in an expert, as I'm doing with the gentleman that's building my website, is because of being on the marketing side, he knows how to, he can find the buzzwords, the keywords on the SEO that are constantly being searched in the area, in the state. They know how to do this stuff. So it definitely is worth, I haven't seen the bill yet, but I keep reminding myself it will be worth it in the long run. It's an investment in myself, in my business, and for clients, to make myself of service.
Yeah, and that's exactly the mindset. You're investing in your business, just like you invested to get your degree. You're investing in your business, and this is going to have payoff over a long period of time.
So one might end up having maybe several different coaches along the way, not only for marketing, but for finding your niche, or if you decide I want to start to hire people, you might need someone to help you navigate what all that looks like, an accounting kind of coach, a legal kind of coach. There's you know, or companies that maybe offer all of that. They probably are out there somewhere that offer all of that kind of service. But to think about the fact that there's all these different areas that we got no training in our master's programs, none.
Yeah.
And you know, I always look at the students who come into the master's program who have MBAs or business background. And I'm like, oh, that's going to be so valuable to you, because you know stuff that all your MFT colleagues don't know. That will be a benefit.
And if I could just tack on to that, Annalyn, to me, the travesty, and one of the reasons I'm so passionate about the work that I do, is I see very often somebody goes through graduate school, they're completely unprepared for private practice, but they're called to it. So they open their private practice. It's a disaster, and they think, what's wrong with me? Why can't I do this? I'm not cut out for this. Maybe I just need to go back to teaching, or wherever they came from. And it breaks my heart, because it is a set of skills. It's not you. It's not that you're too introverted or too extroverted or too young or too old. It's simply,
or not a good therapist.
or not a good therapist. Right, right. It's simply, this is a set of skills that you have not yet developed. And developing them is easy, but it's not that you are destined to failure, or you are not cut out for this.
And I know there are some, like I know Nova has it may be a PhD level class in I don't think it's marketing, but private practice or something like that. So the universities are starting to catch wise about that, but not in a really consistent manner. And it's usually an elective and something else to take. But yeah, it's something to certainly consider. So. All right. Well, I appreciate you so much, Jennifer, and welcome to everybody who listened to this. And if you want to find Jennifer, it's thrivingtherapypractice.com.
Thrivingpractice.com. You will find.
Right. If you want to find her, and or lots of others, or go look at her free stuff if nothing else. But thank you so much, Jennifer.
Thank you for doing this. I love the work that you're doing in really creating this community throughout the state. So thank you.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye.